Gourd Banjo. Homemade gourd banjo. This thing is excellent. So I had the opportunity, as luck would have it, to make a homemade gourd banjo, and somebody I know who's into crafty stuff and farmers markets and things of that sort. I happened to ask her if she knew anybody who had gourds or grew gourds, and as luck would have it, she had some that had been drying for like over a year or something like that. So she gave me a couple. This is the first one. I don't know what kind it is. It's orange. And this one was lighter and thinner than the other one she gave me, which is the more traditional gourds that you'll see banjos made out of. And so I decided to go with this one first because I was worried I would mess something up. I've never done this before. And it has actually turned out marvelously. I'm thrilled about it. The day she gave it to me, I cut the gourd, sanded it, shaped it, put all the holes in it and everything, and tacked the head onto it with some spare skin that I had lying around that was too small for anything else, and it was like the perfect size for this. And I didn't have enough tacks to finish the pattern that I had started, so I just kind of like frilled it up a little bit. It worked fine. It worked fine. I glued around the rim like you would on, a tack head normally. I just used a bridge that I had sitting around. Tailpiece is nothing fancy. I just drilled some holes in the end of the dowel here. And then this was just, I had a few 1x3s, I think, sitting around from a project that I was working on. And I just glued a couple of them together. And then I didn't have any fancy tools for this project. All I used was a circular saw, orbital sander, and just an electric drill for the pegs. And so I glued these together, and I just used a circular saw just to cut the sides off so that it has a taper. It's thicker here. It's I used the measurements off of my main banjo for this one. It's thicker here, tapers down, and of course I stole Brian Carver's thing here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little notch right here that the fifth string slides down into. I'm having a hard time getting the camera to get that, but anyway. And then it comes down over here. This is the ugliest part of the whole thing, as you can see. I took almost no time shaping this headstock here. It's, in my opinion, fabulously ugly. Chipped pieces of wood off the top of it here. It's like, not flat on the edge of it right here. Totally off center. I didn't even try to buzz off the excess right here. I was like, let's just leave it as ugly as we can right here. And I reused some tuning pegs from an old banjo I have. Worked out perfectly. This is it. Fretless, of course, which this is the first fretless instrument that I've ever owned and used and even really played. I think the last time I played a fretless instrument was a fretless bass back in like the mid 2000s, and that was, you know, obviously ages ago. And I love it. I'm actually, I used to be all about frets, but this has converted me. I'm free. This has changed my life. My life is complete now. It's great. I love it. It's fabulous. Just all the sliding things you can do. I love it. Sorry, that was awful. I'm having a really hard time playing claw hammer on this. I'm so used to having the drum head under the 5th string to catch my thumb when it lands. It's like I have to learn to walk again now that there's nothing under here to catch. I can't use the fingerboard. It doesn't. My brain doesn't like that. So right now, when I'm trying to play claw hammer on this thing, I have a horrible case of stupid fingers. But you know, just need more practice. I'll get it eventually. Good for your thinking meat. So I'm happy with also, I thought this was neat how the nut turned out. Originally I had carved this groove right here. You can't hardly see it. Yeah, there it is. I'd carved this groove here because I was going to use a little finish nail that I had that was exactly the right width. And then what I did behind it here on this sort of plateau that's left over on the opposite side, on the headstock side of this groove that I cut grooves, little grooves for the strings to slot down into. If you can see that, my stupid camera will focus. I need a new phone. And you know, I got it strung up, and I had lost the finish nail. But after I got it strung up, I realized that I didn't even need the finish nail anymore. This was the strings essentially break. I think that's the right term for it, at the edge of this groove here, and then they fall into these slots that I carved right here. So it actually worked out pretty good. Accidentally just came up with a perfectly adequate nut design on this homemade banjo here. So it's great. I love it. I can't believe how good it sounds. I was really worried. This is a full scale, full length scale neck. I don't know what you'd call that. Standard scale. Standard, I think it's, 26 and a half inches or something like that. And it, I was worried that the gourd was going to be too small to suit that length, and I almost made it shorter scale length. I'm glad I didn't, because this thing tunes up to, it likes D, is where I'm kind of finding it likes to rest at. And it's so resonant. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up or not. It's so delightfully resonant. I mean, this might be the nicest sounding instrument that I own right now. Maybe a close second behind my circa 1910 banjo of uncertain origin that I play most of my stuff on. But this thing sounds so sweet, and it is so much fun to play. So, you know, I have been encouraged and motivated by a lot of the other folks out there who are making these things. You know, I've watched a lot of Clifton Hicks stuff, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from that. And some other people, you know, obviously Brian Carver, he makes gourd banjos, at least when he can source the gourds. And some other people, there's this young kid that's got a YouTube channel, and he makes his own homemade banjos. So I figured, you know what, if all these other guys are doing it, you know, why not just go for it? And then maybe, I don't know, maybe if I get some fancier tools, I can actually make something that looks good. But, you know, how it sounds is the most important thing to me, and it's got a lot of character, so I can hardly complain, you know. One thing that happened to me when I was building it, I tried to put a tack in right here, and this part actually busted inward, and I thought it was over. I thought the whole thing was over, and I was ready to just drop it and give up and move on to the other gourd that I had that I still haven't done anything with yet. But I decided to take some wood glue and glue the piece back in, and it worked. It worked fine, and as you can see, the strings are actually resting on that section right there, which I was also worried would bust it back in, but it hasn't. It stayed completely structurally sound. So, you know, hey, I'll take it. I can't argue with it. This part right here, I had the tack in there originally, but what happened was it stuck out too much, and it was buzzing. The middle string, the 3rd string, was buzzing on the tip of that tack. So I popped it out, and I put 2 in on the sides there next to it. It's great. Everybody should have one of these. It's it's just way too much fun. My kids want me to make one for all of them, which I have no problem doing, especially since we got a lefty in the family, and I don't want to have to buy an instrument when he might just drop it. Better to make one for super cheap.